I read 19 books this month. Let's talk about them. This month I listened to another 8 of those detective thrillers that I have been totally binging on. I also read 3 science fiction novels, 3 mystery novels, 3 fantasy novels, broadly speaking, 1 contemporary fiction, and 1 lit RPG. Starting with the detective thrillers, I am still totally binging on the audiobooks for John Sandford's Prey series, which I've been really enjoying. They have been so good for my dog walking, or if I'm driving, or if I'm doing chores. So I have been just blowing through those. Unfortunately, I am beginning to run out, and I am beginning to run out of the narrator that I really love. So those are mostly narrated by Richard Ferrone, who does just like an incredible job with them. He has the perfect voice. But he passed away a couple of years ago, and so the newer novels are narrated by a different narrator who, unfortunately, I do not like as much. And so that has been a challenge for me. But I've been really enjoying the ones that I have left. They're super good and just like a really nice sort of comfort read. So this month I listened to Buried Prey, which was number 21 in the series. I had missed that one last month because it was out on loan from my library, and I've been borrowing these all through Libby. And so that became available and I listened to it this month. And then I listened to 26 through 31, which are Extreme Prey, Golden Prey, Twisted Prey, Neon Prey, Masked Prey, and Ocean Prey. Those were all super fun. They vary usually between like 2 stars and 4 stars for me. They're usually between fine and pretty good, I would say. None of them are like literary masterpieces, but they're all very enjoyable. My favorite one this month was Ocean Prey, which has this scuba diving element to it. It was really enjoyable and fun. I also at one point was waiting for a hold to come through, and so I tried The Investigator, which is the first in John Sandford's series that focuses on Letty Davenport, which is a character I really, really like. That was a good book. It was like a 3.5 stars. Unfortunately, no Richard Ferrone for the narration, so that was kind of a bummer. So outside of the detective novels, the first book I read this month was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. That was not on my TBR. I had not been intending to read it, but I spotted it on a family member's bookshelf and I thought it looked interesting from the cover. I didn't realize until after I read it that it's the same author as Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which I have not yet read, but have heard that I should. This was a super fun read. I read it in one night. It's pretty short, and it's just this cute novel about a bookstore owner. I'm a sucker for the sort of books about books genre, and so that was what really caught my eye with this book. I thought it started out really well. The first half of the book was super gripping. I was really enjoying it. I thought it kind of lost momentum a little bit and ended up only rating it maybe 3.5 stars, but it was a nice read. It would have been a good beach read or something like that, and I enjoyed it. After that, I returned to Old Faithful Terry Pratchett, and I read Equal Rites, which is the first book in the Witches arc of the Discworld series. I really love novels that have, like, no-nonsense, older female characters, and I'd heard that Granny Weatherwax is, like, the perfect example of that particular genre, and so I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. I really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. I usually love Terry Pratchett, so I wasn't super surprised by this, but again, it was his normal witty humor and a really fun story. After that, I went back to the Murderbot series, which I started last month and really loved. I've been trying to sort of savor them by only reading maybe 2 or 3 a month, because there's 7 in the series with an 8th coming out in a year or so. And so I read 4 and 5. Those were Exit Strategy and Network Effect. I really loved both of these. I gave them 4 and 4.5 stars. These are just so well done. The writing is wonderful. The story is wonderful. It's a really unique concept about a robot who is semi-human, with some amount of human emotions, but who lives among humans, but who is sort of mystified by humans' social interactions and the way that societies work. Network Effect was the first book that was sort of full length. It's like 350 pages. The other ones are more like novellas. And I actually loved Network Effect. I thought it really benefited from the added length. It gave Martha Wells just more room to expand on a story and give it a little bit more depth. Although I've really never felt like the novellas were suffering for the fact that they were so short. Sometimes novellas feel really rushed, but somehow Martha Wells manages to cram a lot of story into a really small space and make it feel totally natural. So loving this series. I am unfortunately going to finish it this month, which I am sort of dreading, but they have just been so good. I had to read them all. After that, I finished another book in the Newt and Demon series, which is the lit RPG cozy fantasy novel series that I've been really enjoying. This is a web novel that has not been formally published yet, but it's all available on Royal Road, which is where I've been reading it. I download it basically to my Kindle from that site. It was really good. I really love it. I am definitely getting a little burnt out on the series. It's extremely long. Each of the books is like 700 to 900 pages or something like that. I think I need to take a little bit of a break from it, but I have still really been enjoying it. It's super cozy. I love the characters, very low stakes. But this month I think I was just looking for slightly higher stakes reading, so I didn't move right on to the next one. But I suspect I will read it at some point in the future. And I still gave the book 4 stars because it is so sweet and so cozy and just such a nice read. After that, I read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This was probably my favorite book I read this month. It is a fantasy detective novel, essentially. It follows these investigators who are trying to uncover a murder or a series of murders that happened in this really fascinating environment. The world of this story is so well written that you feel like totally immersed in it. It's like super damp. I don't know, it's practically like it's raining and foggy the whole story. And it just feels like hot and humid somehow, which I don't feel like I'm really selling this, but it was like so immersive, the sort of environment in this book. And it all takes place sort of in the backdrop of this world that is constantly under siege by these Leviathans, these huge like sea monsters that are trying to break through these walls into this society. But somehow that's like not really the main focus of the story. There's an investigation going on sort of in the backdrop of that, which was just such an interesting concept that, there's this like crazy world threatening stuff happening. And then these two people are sort of trying to go about this investigation in the meantime. I just thought it was such an interesting concept. And the mystery itself is really well crafted. If anything, it had maybe a couple too many twists to it. Like it felt like it just kept twisting. But I still thought it was so good. The investigator characters are super interesting. One of them essentially doesn't leave the house and is investigating with the help of a assistant who has like special powers to help him remember things. Anyway, super, super good. Really enjoyed it. There's a sequel to it. I already bought it. I am going to read it probably this month, if not next month. The only reason I didn't dive into it was that I wanted to really just sort of ruminate on the story a little bit because it was so enjoyable. But I am definitely going to be reading the sequel pretty soon. After that, I read The Enchanted Greenhouse, which is the second book in the Spellshop series, by Beth Durst. I read the Spellshop earlier this year, totally loved it. Just like quintessential cozy fantasy, super, super heartwarming. I was so excited when I learned that she had a sequel coming out later, and it finally came out, so I read it, I think, the day that it was released. I really loved the sequel as well. I think I probably liked it even maybe slightly more than the Spellshop. It was a totally different environment. It's sort of more of a wintry story, whereas the Spellshop was more of a summery read, I guess. I kind of feel like maybe I should have waited until winter to read it just for like maximum vibes, but there was no way I was going to wait. So I gave this 4 stars, just really loved it. If you like the Spellshop, I think you're pretty much guaranteed to like this. And if you haven't read the Spellshop, I actually think you could probably read it as a standalone. So if you're looking for winter vibes, then maybe that's a good choice for you. So at this point, I was still kind of reeling from the Tainted Cup and just how much I loved the mystery and how intricate it was. But I wasn't quite ready to read the sequel, and I still kind of wanted to read about an older, sort of no-nonsense woman, and so I ended up deciding to read The Murder at the Vicarage by Agatha Christie, which is the first in the Miss Marple series. I had read some Agatha Christie in the past, but none of the Miss Marple series, so it was really fun to read. She wasn't actually as big of a character in this book as I had expected. She's almost a side character. I think she becomes more prominent in some of the later stories, which I am definitely planning to read. But it was still a really good book, just really fun writing, a lot of twists and turns, not a predictable mystery by any stretch. I gave it 3.5 stars. Rather than going directly into another Miss Marple, I decided to sort of continue in that same vein, but go with something a little more contemporary. And so I picked up the first of the Thursday Murder Club books by Richard Osman. This is all about a group of retirees who live together in a retirement village and solve crimes in their murder club. It was just a really sweet concept. It's pretty cozy, even though there's murder happening. It's really fun to just like read about these older folks who are just getting up to absolute mischief in their retirement home. It was definitely not any sort of literary marvel by any stretch, but it was a really enjoyable book, and I gave it a solid 3 stars. Later in the month, I also picked up The Man Who Died Twice, which is the second book in that series, which kind of a similar review. I also gave it 3 stars. A really enjoyable read. Nothing I'm going to be lingering on for months there, but definitely something that was just nice to unwind with. And then finally, I've been really wanting to read more cyberpunk novels. Neuromancer by William Gibson is like one of my all-time favorite books, and I just have not read much more in that genre despite loving that book. So this month I picked up Altered Carbon by Richard Morgan, which is another sort of classic in the genre. I really enjoyed it. It is definitely a pretty classic cyberpunk book in the sense that it is extremely violent. There is a lot of drugs and sex and morally questionable behavior. Not exactly cozy, uplifting reading, but still super good, very noir, very gritty. Really enjoyed it. 4 stars for sure. So that was the 19 books that I read in July. I am really looking forward to continuing the Murderbot series this coming month, and I have a couple other really exciting books, so I am excited to update you on my August reading.